My name is Jubb, and I live in New York City, and I have an outpatient fasting program. And for the last 15 years, I have been forwarding a program called Whole Brain Functioning. It's really about all that we can be. It's a human potential, potentiating human development program. We do fire walking. We do a lot with Native American ceremony and ritual. Spirituality is very important to me. And one of the things that we really focus on is the hygiene of the body, and we call our program LifeFood Nutrition. So this is really what hygiene, body hygiene is all about. What we'd like to do is educate people on how they can be smarter in nourishing their own bodies, and how to eliminate disease, and how to be faster and stronger and better in every way. It ups the brain speed. You get to think very quick fire kind of brain activity. It's very, very important to have high nutrients in the body and a lack of toxins. Any kind of debris, anything that's not you, that you would be carrying around inside of your body, is probably just extra baggage. And so what we like to do is invite the person to let go of that extra baggage and actually find out how much pressure can be relieved inside of the body. One of our fortes is actually our 14-day LifeFood nutritional fast, and thousands of people every year go on this 14-day cleanse. Very, very simple, not like regular fasting, it's nutritional fasting, where people are actually taking in more nourishment on the first day than they would have for the entire week of cooked foods prior to starting the cleanse. It's very simple, but there are a few technical things that go along with it too. But in the first gallbladder flush, a person can expect to get rid of 150 gallstones. 150, sometimes that's a cup full of stones. I have people photograph them. I've got all kinds of really great pictures of material, debris that's been in the person's body for 20, 30, 50 years that they've been carrying around with them. And it's quite something when they unload it. I have some wonderful testimonials of people that have been wearing reading glasses for years and years and years. And after they've done one gallbladder flush and gotten rid of cupfuls of mucus out of their body, gallstones and adhesions, and they put their reading glasses down for 6 months. It's quite something really, because Chinese medicine tells us that when there's pressure on the internal organs, especially the gallbladder and the liver, that it brings pressure behind the eyes. And most of the reading glasses that are used today is actually because of a buildup of these materials that are foreign to the body, that are within the body, that are not of the body. Well, quite frankly, I've written a book called Sexually Rigged. Actually, it looks right into gender roles. And what I've found is that males and females are really pretty much the same. We come out of the womb pretty much with similar physiology, and there's just really a few things that set us apart. One of the things that does set us apart is what we are given as gender roles. And what I found is that we can only partially affect a true healing in a body when we approach it physically. That we are actually more of a threefold beings. We are physical, we're emotional, and we're also spiritual beings having this human experience. And when dealing with women, when treating women's issues, one of the things we have to look at is what are those women's emotional components that go into being a woman. One of the things that I've found is that the feminine side of the body, left side of the body, is very much to do with nurturing, receiving, drawing energy into the body. You'll very much find women in their 50s very often having lymph and breast issues on the left side of their body because they've over-nurtured. This is a very huge part of it, and in fact I really recommend for people who come to see me that we have to take at least a twofold, we have to look at least two of those aspects. Physical, emotional, and spiritual are three of them, right? At least two of them have to be addressed for complete remission to happen. So with breast cancer, with fibroids, with a lot of the issues that women are dealing with today, it's very important to go to the roots of the illness. I do this with hypnotherapy sometimes just a simple conversation can draw these things out for the person. It's very important to find what the emotional roots are to any illness, and that with the physical components and often spiritual issues too have to be addressed for a full, complete remission for the person. It's very interesting. So women tend to over-nurture. They tend to dedicate their life to their man and to their children. It's a very beautiful gift. It's a wonderful gift of spirit and a gift of a huge portion of their lives. And what happens though then is they very much have certain needs that haven't been addressed in themselves. We all need to be nurtured and cared for, and very often I find women over-caring, over-nurturing for the people around them and not caring enough for themselves. In fact, I had 3 clients yesterday that were all women that all had that as base, deep, core issues that needed to be addressed. So one of the things I'll suggest to the woman is I say, well, I believe that every woman should have 1 to 3 hours of perfectly alone time every single day. You know, in the Bible tells us that on the seventh day God rested. Well, I feel that that was a message to us that we need about 1/7 of our human experience to contemplate our connection with Spirit, to contemplate who we are as spiritual beings. What are we doing here? What is my mission? Those two questions are very important. I ask myself that all the time. Who am I? And what am I doing? Every morning I try to pass that question by me so that I have a real connection to my own purpose here on the planet. If that purpose, often in mothering and women's issues, that purpose often becomes, I want to help facilitate the passions and the dreams of my people, my children, my husband, and often their own personal passions, their own personal issues get put to the wayside. You'll find this right around the world. When I went to India, I talked to women, this were their issues there. They work from dawn till dusk. All around the world, I find women putting themselves aside and wanting to help other people, which is a beautiful gift. It's a wonderful thing to do. It's also very important that they also turn the light around and find out what it is, what are they doing in the world? What is their personal mission that they need to do beyond helping other people? We all have to find our own passion. When a woman decides that she'd like to eat more of a plant-based, organic, whole food diet, where there's uncooked foods as a vast majority of their diet, she'll find that she no longer has a lot of the same issues that she had on a cooked food diet, especially in regard to her feminine cycle. You'll find in nature that there are no other animals that have menstruation where they're actually hemorrhaging every month, except for domesticated animals and human females. Why is that? Because that domestication, those cooked foods actually linger within the uterine lining, and it creates like a very, if you will, like just a very sharp kind of a toxic debris that's minerals that haven't been able to be broken down. Certain food equations that have not been able to be broken down in the body, so they're not assimilated. Anything that we eat that's not assimilated, it'll be stored inside the body, inside of the musculature. And a woman will have them sometimes stored within the uterine lining. And that's basically what menses is when it comes to such a fullness inside of the uterine lining that those pop and rupture. Hemorrhaging is never a natural experience. Hemorrhaging is always an unnatural experience and needs to be addressed, right? So one of the things that a woman who goes on to a LifeFood diet, a diet of mostly uncooked, I find that it should be about 78%. If you're a 78% uncooked foods or higher, you'll find that a lot of the issues that a woman used to have, like painful cramping or bloating or premenstrual syndrome where they drop out on the hormones, estrogen and progesterone drop out about 2 days before the actual menses kicks in. And what happens with that is that there's a huge high and low that is hormonally based in the body. Those things start to balance out after probably like 1 or 2 months of being on a diet of at least 75% raw foods. What happens is the buildup inside of the body, after a certain amount of hygiene and cleansing starts to occur, right? The person no longer has that kind of if you look at those toxins, and what I mean toxins, I mean is undigested food particles, okay? They linger within the musculature and they're very spiny. They're spiny and they're sharp. And when the woman's body engorges thinking, oh, I might be pregnant, every month the body goes, hey, I might be pregnant, right? Which is a wonderful thing. So it starts to engorge this area and makes the uterine this like nice, cozy, sweet place where a baby might want to grow. And after the egg comes and goes and is not fertilized, then the body says, oh, we're not pregnant yet, you know. So all of that blood starts to, in a person who's a LifeFood person, that blood just gets uptaken back into the system, right? But if there's a lot of spiny material in there, non-digested food particles, they linger within the musculature, they pop and break, and that's where that hemorrhaging occurs from. You will only see this kind of hemorrhaging in animals that are eating cooked foods. Domesticated animals, now our dogs and cats are mimicking a lot of human diseases. They're also menstruating like human women do. If you look right around the world, the only animals are domesticated animals. All of the wild animals living on raw wild foods no longer, you know, they've never had a menses. They go into their heat, they go out of their heat, and that's it. They don't bleed or hemorrhage in any way. A woman on a LifeFood diet can expect to have very, very short menses, very, very light. I menstruate about a teaspoon of blood or something like that, you know, very, very light over maybe 2 or 3 days. And very often I'll even skip that. though I'm very sexually active, and so I like to know that I'm not pregnant every month, and so it's sort of an agreement that I have with my body. You can make agreements like that with your body, and I think that's very smart to do so that you're in charge and you know exactly what's going on. One of the important parts of my program is looking at assimilation. We're looking at how what we eat is not just so important, it's what we can actually assimilate into the body. And so one thing I like to get women onto is freshly ground up seeds. You can make nut milks or seed milks, but basically any tiny, shiny seeds are just loaded with hormones. And everybody can use more hormones. I have hardly run across a single person that cannot use more hormones, right? We need more hormones. And shiny little seeds are a good way to get them. Any kind of shiny little seeds on a berry, a blueberry, those like little seeds and stuff, but here's the kicker. They're only available to us if we actually masticate those seeds and release those hormones. So you have to chew them very well, or you have to blend them very well in your blender, or if you're like me, you get one of those little, $15 coffee grinders, which are great, and you put all your seeds in that. You can sprinkle them over your salads. Pumpkin seeds, flax seeds are also very nice. Sesame seeds, loads of calcium in that too. Those hormones are biologically available to us. They're much more potent than anything else. I love to talk to women about how to get off of estrogen replacement hormones, because those are synthetic hormones that have been able to be patented. You cannot patent a normal hormone in the that you would find living in nature, for example. You can't take a strawberry and say, oh, I'm going to take the hormones from that and patent it and make a lot of money off of it. It might cost $4 to produce a bottle of hormones like that, but estrogen replacement therapies can charge $50, $60, $70, $80 for what they do, because they've synthesized those hormones. Huge difference. Now what happens when you bring an estrogen that's been synthesized into the body like that? It mimics a natural body estrogen, and so it fills receptor sites that are made for those estrogens within the body. But here's the deal. They don't flow in and out like a normal hormone would be able to do. Normal hormones are able to biologically transmutate into the exact hormones that are needed within the body. And so, progesterone gets broken down into estrogens and some of the other, there's a whole range of estrogens, very, very many estrogens. And what happens when you block those receptor sites within the body with pharmaceutically patented hormones like estrogens and so forth, it blocks those receptor sites, it fills them, and I think there's quite a bit of research out there that'll show you that sometimes they block them permanently. That's why you find women who have been on estrogen replacement therapies that have a lot of breast cancer issues. I know a number of women that have had double mastectomies as a result of this. Why have they done that? Which is an unnecessary surgery. You can turn that around. You can body cleanse those estrogen receptor sites out and make them clean and available again too. You need to think about bringing in natural hormones. Nuts and seeds, of course, bring those hormones in only when they're ground up. There's also a few progesterones on the market now. One progesterone, Dr. Raymond Pete, he's got the best hormone on the market. It's made from wild Mexican yam. It's mixed with a vitamin E oil, and it's a fabulous, fabulous progesterone. Many women have been able to really turn around all kinds of conditions because of this. And just like I said before, just about everybody needs more hormones. Even women, even men have the same hormones as women do. Women have testosterone and the same hormones that men do. We need to have an abundance of these kind of base ingredients for hormones in the body so that we can biologically transmutate the hormones that we need on the spot. It's very much a fallacy to think that we can actually consume something like iron. The pharmaceutical industry would tell you that you could just, chew a little bit of a bumper bar or chew a little bit of a spoon and get iron into your body and be able to make it biologically available and have iron-rich blood. That's absolute ridiculousness. What we need is we have to build iron, we have to build calcium, we have to build these from its constituent parts. Calcium is built out of magnesium and silica and a couple of other things, and we have to build that on demand. There's no way that you can take calcium from a ground-up oyster shell, chew on that, and say, oh, I'm building strong bones. Not at all. Your liver will be taxed, the kidneys are taxed outrageously. That material is stored. People have all kinds of buildup around the main arteries going into the heart because of these inorganic minerals that are all from pharmaceutical-grade vitamins. The pharmaceutical industry is less than understanding about biological transmutation. That is the wave of the future for nutrition and vitamin supplementation. There are some wonderful books that have been written by Dr. John Lee on hormone replacement therapies that are all plant-based and natural. Wonderful material for any woman who's ever had a hysterectomy. She is a woman who's had her uterus removed is desperately in need of more hormones. She has taken away her life-giving and her hormone-generating abilities, right? Which is usually a very unnecessary surgery. Only in cases of, extreme car accidents and stuff like this would you find that the actual need to remove that very vital, very important organ, the uterus. If it has been removed, though, there are many women in my program that have turned around their estrogen replacement therapies and use natural plant-based hormones. Wild Mexican yam is very, very important. You have to really think about the progesterones, too, that you can bring in the body. Progesterone can break down into many other hormones. Pro-opiomelanocortin is very important. There are very important hormones that are mother molecules, if you will, we build other hormones from. It's sort of a fallacy to think that we only have a few different hormones and we have to keep taking the same hormones over and over again. If you look at a pygmy's diet, you'll see that in a single week they take in 200 different kinds of foods. 200 different kinds of foods that, I mean, they're not vegetarian by any stretch of the imagination, but they'll have root, bark, leaf, berry, all kinds of nutrients, phytonutrients in there that are just loaded with all kinds of a range of hormones that we don't even touch here in the United States. In the United States, there are 4 favorite vegetables, and everybody eats them all the time, right? And most of them are very starchy, like potatoes. What I like to recommend for people to do is to, first of all, clear away all of the material that's not of the person. That's really what's blocking the system. If somebody has a less amount of debris in their body, if what's inside of them is truly body, tissue, blood, bones, brain, all of the body tissues, that they're going to be in a much healthier state to actually biologically transmutate things that they need through their diet, even through the air. There's a great deal of information now that shows us that what we breathe, what we drink, the fluids we bring in, our thoughts even, can help us to produce more hormones, can produce the nutrients that we need, and actually biologically assimilate and create these things on the spot as they're needed. Very, very important. Body hygiene has to be there first. The person's emotional spirit has to be harnessed too behind it. When a woman has a hysterectomy, there are a number of things that go on for her emotionally that have to be addressed. Her life-giving ability, my grandmother had a hysterectomy at the age of 80, and it was a huge experience for her because, we were saying, oh, well, we're not going to have any more, children from grandma, I guess, right? But for her, it was an emotional experience because it was her life-giving ability. Those emotional components had to be addressed. It's very important for a woman to understand her part in forwarding consciousness on the planet today. It's very obvious the role that men have had, and women are just starting to really define who they are and what their part is in this whole creation, what our part is in politics, what our contribution is to education, what our contribution is in a spiritual fabric that makes up, this fabric that connects every single person on the planet. What is our contribution? I understand that because, Native American ceremony tells us that women are gifted with a womb space inside of our bodies. That makes us very different, inherently different from men. We're very much the same, of course, but we also have this space inside of us that can hold, contain, and circulate energy, and then bring that back out. So reflection is extremely important for the woman. Men, too, also need more time for reflection. We have a very busy, unnatural experience in our life today. If you look back even several thousands of years and you watch our lineage as we've crept forward, we've had much more time for spiritual reflection, more time for ritual and ceremony. Some of the rituals that have been removed from our culture today are very, very important. The rite of passage, for example, of the coming-of-age ceremony, you'll only find in a very few cultures in the United States now. The Jewish bat mitzvah and bar mitzvah, you have a few of these rituals, but they're no longer of the same quality and nature that they used to be. Before, when you had a rite of passage ceremony, it meant that you today have now stepped into your power as who you are. You are an adult in the eyes of the tribe. These rites of passage are very, very important, and because we don't have them, we've edited some of them out. There's sort of a move away from spirituality because of all the dogmas of religion, right? But spirituality is inherent to each of us. Spirituality is a God-given gift. It's our birthright. It doesn't have to be defined by any religious doctrine whatsoever. It's our God-given right. So what is a woman's role in this? Very, very important. Women are the dreamers. Women are the dreamers. They come up with the dream plan, the creation of stories. It's very important. When in the 80s, when Gorbachev was coming onto the world stage and saying, hey, I'm going to make some changes with the Soviet Union, they said, well, you know, they wanted to know, well, what role does your wife have to play in your decision-making process, right? And all the world leaned forward to say, is he going to give her any credit whatsoever? And he leaned into the microphone and he said, I run by every single decision that I have by my wife. She is my greatest advisor. And he single-handedly, I think if we look at this entire, at least the latter half of this century, or the 20th century, now we're in the 21st century, but the 20th century will find that he was one of the greatest change agents. And he was actually pulling from his woman the dreams of her visions, right? It's very important because a male has very directed energy, very much like a laser beam, right? So very good at single-pointed consciousness. If you look at the brain makeup of a male and a female, you'll find that they're very inherently different. Men are far more lateralized than women are. They're very specifically task-oriented. Women are very gifted at a lot of different tasks. They can multitask. They can do a number of different things, log in a number of different programs at the exact same time and keep them all really up and floating, right? Where a man needs to be, look, I'm just concentrating on this one thing, just don't bother me with other details. Where a woman would be like, no, give me the details, and she'll start to weave them all in, and she'll, when she's thought about them, had time for reflection and consciousness to it, she'll pull those all together in just this wonderful stream, and she'll offer that back to her man, who then can target it and bring that out into the world. We need to have more women in politics today, because a lot of the politics that are being created on the planet today are very left brain orientated. You know, it's almost as if there's not even a right brain that occurs in some sightings, right? So left brain orientation, if you look at neurochemical balances, if you look at hemisphere orientation, you'll find that the left brain governs the right side of the body. It's very much to do with language, mathematics, logical sequencing and processing, and all of these things, right? Very, very important for our world, but we very rarely deal with the right hemisphere of the brain, which is almost more of the woman's side of the brain. This is like, if you could say what the task is of the left side of the brain, it's to like focus everything down to the tiniest little bit and pluck out one little thing and focus on that. But the right hemisphere of the brain is very much about the vastness of everything. It's the thing that could tell you years after you had an experience, you know, that there were birds chirping in the background today as we're doing this, that certain people walked by, I could name them logically, I could come up with any information that I needed that had happened to me at any point in my life. All of these records are stored to the right side of the brain. This is more like the woman's side. Very much the woman's gift is to chronicle and sequence all of the experience and then offer that into something that's cohesive, into one cohesive unit. We need to bring more women into politics because of this, because we have a lot of the issues and problems that we're having today are because we're only looking at the smallest particle of it. We're looking at statistics, for example, and saying, oh, this statistical equation can bring it down to some neat little number, and then we can, you know, base everything on that. But a woman can look at it and say, no, these are so many factors that's going to involve and affect. We need to look at the entire system. It's the entire system, and not just today, not just tomorrow, but for 7 generations. The decisions we make today need to be good and strong for our children, our children's children, our children's children's children, for 7 generations. That's the part of the woman that's the dreamer, the ability to dream the dream for a long distance into the future. My name is Jubb, and I live in New York City, and I have an outpatient fasting program. And for the last 15 years, I have been forwarding a program called Whole Brain Functioning. It's really about all that we can be. It's a human potential, potentiating human development program. We do fire walking. We do a lot with Native American ceremony and ritual. Spirituality is very important to me. And one of the things that we really focus on is the hygiene of the body, and we call our program LifeFood Nutrition. So this is really what hygiene, body hygiene is all about. What we'd like to do is educate people on how they can be smarter in in nourishing their own bodies and how to eliminate gender roles. And what I've found is that males and females are really pretty much the same. We come out of the womb pretty much with similar physiology, and there's just really a few things that set us apart. One of the things that does set us apart is what we are given as gender roles. And what I found is that we can only partially affect a true healing in a body when we approach it physically. That we are actually more of a threefold beings. We are physical, we're emotional, and we're also spiritual beings having this human experience. And when dealing with women, when treating women's issues, one of the things we have to look at is what are those women's emotional components that go into being a woman. One of the things that I've found is that the feminine side of the body, left side of the body, is very much to do with nurturing, receiving, drawing energy into the body. You'll very much find women in their 50s very gallstones. 150, sometimes that's a cup full of stones. I have people photograph them. I've got all kinds of really great pictures of material, debris that's been in the person's body for 20, 30, 50 years that they've been carrying around with them. And it's quite something when they unload it. I have some wonderful testimonials of people that have been wearing reading glasses for years and years and years. And after they've done one gallbladder flush and gotten rid of cupfuls of mucus out of their body, gallstones and adhesions, and they put their reading glasses down for 6 months. It's quite something really, because Chinese medicine tells us that when there's pressure on the internal organs, especially the gallbladder and the liver, that it brings pressure behind the eyes. And most of the reading glasses that are used today is actually because of a buildup of these materials that are foreign to the body, that are within the body, that are not of the body. Well, quite frankly, I've written a book called Sexually Rigged. Actually, it looks right into often having a lymph and breast issues on the left side of their body because they've over-nurtured. This is a very huge part of it, and in fact, I really recommend for people who come to see me that we have to take at least a twofold, we have to look at least two of those aspects. Physical, emotional, and spiritual are three of them, right? At least two of them have to be addressed for complete remission to happen. So with breast cancer, with fibroids, with a lot of the issues that women are dealing with today, it's very important to go to the roots of the illness. I do this with hypnotherapy sometimes just a simple conversation can draw these things out for the person. It's very important to find what the emotional roots are to any illness, and that with the physical components and often spiritual issues too have to be addressed for a full, complete remission for the person. It's very interesting. So women tend to over-nurture, they tend to get disease and how to be faster and stronger and better in every way. It ups the brain speed. You get to think very quick fire kind of brain activity. It's very, very important to have high nutrients in the body and a lack of toxins. Any kind of debris, anything that's not you, that you would be carrying around inside of your body, is probably just extra baggage. And so what we like to do is invite the person to let go of that extra baggage and actually find out how much pressure can be relieved inside of the body. One of our fortes is actually our 14-day LifeFood nutritional fast, and thousands of people every year go on this 14-day cleanse. Very, very simple, not like regular fasting, it's nutritional fasting, where people are actually taking in more nourishment on the first day than they would have for the entire week of cooked foods prior to starting the cleanse. It's very simple, but there are a few technical things that go along with it too. But in the first gallbladder flush, a person can expect to get rid of 150